You don't remember the exact moment it changed. There wasn't a countdown. No announcement that said, "This is where your childhood ends." It just shifted. Maybe it was the first time you noticed the room felt tense before anyone spoke. Maybe it was the night you lay awake listening for footsteps, voices, doors closing too hard. Maybe it was when you realized that being calm made things easier and being quiet made things safer. You didn't decide to grow up. You adapted. One day you were just a kid, and the next, you were monitoring emotions that weren't yours to manage. You learned how to read the air. A raised eyebrow, a sigh held too long, silence that meant something was wrong. And somehow, without anyone asking you to, you stepped into the role of the steady one. People said you were mature, wise for your age, so responsible. What they didn't see was the weight behind that maturity. The way your body stayed tense even when nothing was happening. The way your mind was always a few steps ahead, trying to prevent problems before they existed. Because for you, peace never felt permanent. It felt conditional. This is what happens when a child realizes early that no one else is coming to hold things together. So they do. At first, it looks like helping. Then it becomes habit. Then it becomes identity. You become the emotional anchor, the problem solver, the one who doesn't fall apart because falling apart feels dangerous. And slowly, you learn a quiet rule that follows you into adulthood. My needs come last. Psychology calls this parentification, but that word barely touches the experience. What it really means is that your nervous system learned responsibility before it learned safety. You weren't born hyper-aware. You became that way. Your body learned to stay alert because alertness once kept you safe. Your brain learned to scan for danger because missing the signs used to have consequences. So now, even in calm moments, something feels off. Stillness makes you uneasy. Relaxation feels unfamiliar. Your body is waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's hypervigilance, the alarm system that never turns off. You might notice it in the way you reread messages before sending them, the way you apologize automatically, even when nothing is wrong, the way you prepare for disappointment before allowing yourself to feel hope. It's not negativity, it's conditioning. Your system learned that being prepared meant being protected. And over time, that survival skill became your personality. You became dependable, self-sufficient, the one everyone leans on. You learned how to handle things on your own because relying on others once felt unsafe. You learned to be useful because usefulness felt like security. You learned to be agreeable because conflict felt dangerous. These weren't flaws, they were strategies. Every coping mechanism you developed was your younger self trying to survive a world that felt unstable. But what kept you safe back then may be keeping you stuck now. Because as an adult, the same patterns show up quietly. You struggle to rest without guilt. You feel uncomfortable being taken care of. You offer support easily, but hesitate to ask for it. Love feels safer when you're giving it, not receiving it. When someone asks, "What do you need?" your mind goes blank. Not because you don't have needs, but because you learned early that having needs was inconvenient. In relationships, you might notice a push and pull. You crave closeness, but too much closeness makes you nervous. You want connection, but your body braces for loss. You read between the lines constantly. A delayed reply feels heavy. A change in tone triggers overthinking. You're not dramatic. You're patterned. This is what insecure attachment looks like when it's born from early responsibility. Your heart wants safety, but your nervous system expects instability. So you manage. You overgive. You try to be easy to love. And then you wonder why you feel so tired. Because deep down, you were taught that love had to be maintained. That peace had to be protected. That if you stopped being careful, everything might fall apart. That belief runs quietly in the background of your life. Cognitive psychology would call it a loop. A thought appears, something's wrong. Your body reacts. You tense, fix, apologize, overperform. The anxiety fades. Your brain learns, this works, and so the cycle repeats. Psychodynamic theory would say you develop parts. The competent one, the caretaker, the manager, and underneath all of them, the child who never got to rest. That child didn't disappear. They just learned to stay quiet. They learned that crying didn't help. That asking didn't guarantee anything. That strength was rewarded and vulnerability was risky. So they handed control to the protector. That's why you can function so well even when you feel empty. Why you seem composed while carrying exhaustion no one sees. Defense mechanisms step in. You intellectualize pain. You joke about things that hurt. You downplay experiences so you don't have to feel their weight. It looks like resilience, but it's also restraint. And on the quiet nights, when there's nothing left to manage, a question surfaces. Why did I have to be the strong one? In those moments, something inside you aches for softness, for permission, for rest. You might even feel guilty for feeling this way. Others had it worse, right? You tell yourself you're fine, but fine is not the same as okay. Fine is survival language. You didn't grow up fast because you wanted to. You grew up fast because the environment required it. Neuroscience tells us that prolonged stress in childhood shapes the brain. Threat detection becomes heightened. Calm becomes unfamiliar. Your body doesn't forget what it learned to do to stay safe. That's why joy can feel complicated. You enjoy things, but part of you waits for them to end. Happiness feels temporary, like something you're borrowing. You're not chasing success or validation. You're chasing safety. You want to exhale without bracing. And here's the truth you don't hear often enough. Nothing was wrong with you. What you call too much was once necessary. What you call overthinking was once protection. What you call independence was born from not having a choice. But you're not there anymore. Healing doesn't start with fixing yourself. It starts with updating your nervous system, teaching your body that the danger has passed. That happens slowly, through repetition, not realization. A pause instead of an apology. Letting silence exist without filling it. Receiving help without explaining why you deserve it. You'll feel uncomfortable at first, because guilt shows up when you stop performing. But guilt isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something new. Boundaries will feel terrifying before they feel empowering. Because for a long time, saying no felt like risking abandonment. But boundaries aren't walls. They're instructions for safety. They teach others how to stay, not how to leave. And then there's receiving, the most unfamiliar skill of all. Letting someone show up for you without immediately compensating. Letting kindness land without questioning it. Letting love exist without earning it. Healing isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the adult your younger self needed. The one who notices when you're tired. The one who allows rest without justification. The one who says, you don't have to hold everything anymore. You start doing small things differently. You speak more gently to yourself. You stop minimizing your experiences. You allow joy without scanning for consequences. And slowly, something shifts. You stop living like peace is fragile. You stop confusing tension with familiarity. You start trusting quiet. The child inside you doesn't need you to rewrite the past. They just need you to show up now, to sit beside them and say, it wasn't your fault. You did enough. You can rest. Healing isn't dramatic. It's subtle. A deeper breath. A softer morning. A moment where you don't brace for impact. And one day, you realize something quietly miraculous. You're not surviving anymore. You're living. Not because the past disappeared, but because it no longer controls the present. The child who grew up too fast didn't break you. They kept you alive. Now, you get to teach them something new. That safety doesn't have to be earned. That love doesn't need to be managed. That you're allowed to exist without holding the world together. And maybe that's the real healing. Not becoming strong, but finally feeling safe enough to be gentle.